15 Things You Didn't Know About K-2SO. Rogue One: A Star Wars Story has been a resounding success among most fans and critics. One of the most successful elements seems to be the latest lovable droid, K-2SO. But K2 is lovable in a different way when compared to relatively friendly and innocent droids like C-3PO, R2-D2 and BB-8. As much as those droids have had their humorous moments, K2 is downright hilarious, with a uniquely dry and disturbingly honest wit. 15. He almost looked like C-3PO. It's no secret that character designs, especially when it comes to Star Wars characters, have a tendency to change quite a bit from their initial concept sketches. So it's no real surprise that K-2SO is no different. A couple of the designs look almost exactly like Threepio's body, with the familiar circle on his torso and exposed wiring around his waist. One full sketch shows more exposed wiring than we're used to seeing on a protocol droid and a head that's similar in shape to Threepio's, but with a straight line where his two eyes would normally be. Another group shot shows a version of K2 with the protocol droid body but a different head with an antenna sticking out of it. 14. He was an Imperial droid. Before he joined the Rebel Alliance, and, in turn, the Rogue One squad, K-2SO was an Imperial security droid. That's right, he worked for the bad guys. Specifically, he was a KX-series Security Droid. Well, technically he still is in name, and still wears the Imperial insignia on his shoulder, which allows him to get around Imperial forces. They were notable for being tall and lanky, but nevertheless quite strong. Their roles seemed to be differentiated from stormtroopers in that they served more of a bodyguard duty, compared to the stormtroopers' general soldiering duties. So this was K2's life before he came into the hands of Rebel Captain Cassian Andor, who reprogrammed him to serve his needs with the Rebel Alliance. 13. Reprogramming brought out his true personality. Presumably, your typical Imperial KX-series security droid follows orders and goes about its business without saying much. However, when Cassian reprogrammed K2, it somehow brought out a distinct personality in him. It made him say whatever he thinks, and apparently his thoughts are extremely sarcastic. When we're first introduced to him, he knocks Jyn Erso to the ground and tells her, "Congratulations." 12. Performer Alan Tudyk had to wear stilts to play him. K-2SO was voiced and played by cult favorite actor Alan Tudyk, known for his work in the Whedonverse and a lot of voice acting, in a motion capture performance. He describes what he wore as kind of a body panty, and he had to stand on stilts to boost him up to K2's full height of 7 feet 1. 11. Tudyk's performance made Anthony Daniels jealous. Anthony Daniels made his name as C-3PO, the Star Wars universe's original beloved humanoid droid. The thing about playing Threepio, though, is that Daniels literally has to be bolted into the metal costume every day for filming. When Tudyk spoke to Daniels about how he was performing K2 through motion capture, without having to wear a cumbersome suit, Daniels' response was, "You, explicit." Number 10. His Firefly, Serenity connections. Well, the obvious Firefly, Serenity connection is Alan Tudyk, who starred as Hobbit, Washburn in the beloved, but short-lived, TV series, 2002-03, and film, 2005. Wash was the goofy, brave and highly skilled pilot of the titular ship, Serenity. So it was surely not too much of a coincidence that his Rogue One character, K-2SO, was also a pilot. Number 9. He's the Chewie to Cassian's Han. K-2SO is very much an amalgam of a few familiar original trilogy characters. We'll start with his similarities to Wookiee warrior and pilot Chewbacca. The most obvious would be that he's a co-pilot. Just as Chewie was always next to Han Solo as the Millennium Falcon jumped to hyperspace, so, too, was K2 next to Cassian aboard any ships they flew for the Rebel Alliance. He's also like our favorite Wookiee in that he's a fierce warrior. Number 8. He's as pessimistic as C-3PO. As we alluded to earlier, both C-3PO and K-2SO are humanoid droids. That is, both of their chassis have a head, torso, 2 arms, and 2 legs. That's as opposed to other types of droids, like the garbage-can-shaped older astromechs, R2-D2, and the newer astromechs like BB-8, who are basically balls. Both of those droids are constantly annoying everyone around them by explaining how likely or unlikely things are to happen, right down to the often depressing statistical odds. Number 7. He's as handy as R2-D2. We can't help but remember that Luke, Han, Chewie, and Leia would have been flattened into pancakes in that trash compactor if not for R2's gadgets. In much the same way, K2 was able to help out his friends with his amazing technical abilities and knowledge, including helping Jyn and Cassian to steal the Death Star plans and get them transmitted. Number 6. He almost gets to say a classic Star Wars line. The line, "I have a bad feeling about this," and variations thereof, had been said in all 7 of the previous Star Wars films. When the Rogue One squad was embarking on their climactic mission to retrieve the Death Star plans on Scarif, K2, who as we know always says exactly what's on his mind, said, "I have a bad feeling about." He was cut off by Cassian, who didn't want to hear such pessimism, before he could officially say the line. Number 5. He's a cousin of the Viper droid. Like all KX-series security droids, K-2SO was manufactured for the Empire by a droid-making company called Arachid Industries. In it, we learn that Arachid also created the Empire's Viper probe droids, so they have a history with the bad guys. Viper droids, if you're not familiar, are those droids the Empire deployed at the beginning of the Empire Strikes Back to search for the rebel base on Hoth, the ones with the circular heads and dangling limbs. Number 4. He can survive in space, and is proud of it. Since droids are not organic and don't require oxygen to breathe, it seems to stand to reason that they wouldn't be too badly hurt, if at all, by being exposed to the vacuum of space. After all, we know that astromechs like R2-D2 don't have a problem being exposed while serving as co-pilots for rebel pilots in ships like X-Wing and Y-Wing fighters. While piloting a ship together with Cassian, the humans aboard talk about how disastrous their mission could potentially be, that if something goes wrong they'll wind up thrust into the vacuum of space, where they would all die instantly. Number 3. He's capable of loyalty. As much as his reprogramming made him less likely to obey every order he's given, it also gave him the ability to think freely and decide who he likes and who he doesn't like. And a big part of that is learning to be loyal to certain people who have been loyal to him. At the top of K2's loyalty list would be Cassian, since Cassian reprogrammed him and is always by his side. But K2 also learns to be loyal to Jyn Erso. At first he's loyal to her only in so much as he says he won't kill her because Cassian said she's to be viewed as their friend. Number 2. He's nicknamed Target Practice. This is how Jyn Erso views the former security droid early in their relationship. So, on the Rogue One squad's first mission, on their way to find Saw Gerrera on Jedha, things come to a head for Jyn and she hits the droid with some wit of her own at K2's expense. She calls him Target Practice, implying that his best role on the mission would be to leave him behind to provide a target for the Empire, slowing down their pursuit of the rest of the squad. Number 1. He's tougher than other droids of his kind. K2 kept working after that first shot landed, despite the smoking hole in his torso. It didn't seem to bother him at all, despite the fact that earlier in the film Jyn had shot another KX-series security droid who looked exactly like him. But not our K2, who kept on ticking, helping his friends, fending off stormtroopers with his blaster, but still taking fire. Whether it was rebel reinforcements or something about his reprogramming that made K-2SO so hard to take down, he made the ultimate sacrifice to help the rebels.